Welcome to Obelix. We're going to run through the kind of general systems of this truck. I want to give just a quick overview, where things are located, how they're kind of fused or broke, or where batteries are located, just as a kind of a reference in the future, if I'm of course not there to point and show you those things. So, and some of these things are known, but just bear with us as we roll through everything. We're going to start with the cab electronics. All the cab electronics come to the starter batteries. So alternators charging those batteries. Specifically, there's no solar, there's nothing else charging these batteries. So we've got the two starter batteries here, and this switch off to the left here is going to be the kill for these starter batteries. So if this is off, the truck won't start. Just as a note. And of course, green means go. It's off right now, so it's in an off position. Just below this switch is the air conditioning fuse. Above this switch is the winch power for the rear lift, the rear tire lift. And then if we move just off to the right here, this black switch controls all the additional accessories that we've added to the truck cab. So things like monitoring, things like infrared monitor, navigation screen, audio, those sorts of things. This is the kill specifically for that. That's the black switch. And then of course to the left is the bladed fuse for that, or fuse for that. Above is for alternator charge for the house batteries. We're not going to talk about that just yet, but we'll get there in just a moment. So what we'll do now, we're going to go and I'll show you where this switch feeds to the stud, and then those accessories then move from there. So we'll come over here. One thing I wanted to point out over here, that black switch feeds this stud, which then powers specifically the winch in the front, powers the S-Pod controls, and then also the 12-volt converter. So we've kind of just made one specific location for those things to branch from there. So everything else then would feed into the fuse panel, fuse box. That is kind of stock for Mercedes that we've just incorporated our bladed fuses into. So also can see the added horn, 24-volt horn. So I'll jump in the cab here. And this is going to be, this is the stock fuse panel location for the truck. So anything truck related would be in here. Wrong light. But also we've put all those bladed, all the accessory fuses in here as well. There's 24 volt and there's 12 volt. These are labeled specifically for what they do, what they are. So things like S-Pod for lighting, AC control, 12, 24 volt converter, horn, front pods, et cetera, et cetera. It's all labeled. So that's where that stuff is located. And really that's kind of the gist of things in the cab. And we'll move on to the next. So the lower socket here is your 30 amp kind of US plug. I do have an adapter here for it. You're just going to kind of find the way the tongs go in, and then tighten it down accordingly. I'm going to go backwards and then go forwards. So that will hold that thing in place. Important to note, this is a 30 amp. It's important to have a 30 amp outlet or power source coming to this, because it will draw quite a bit of power if those batteries are low. So just as a note, it would pop a fuse or wouldn't allow things to in fact charge. And then the upper one here would be your European standard, which is pull that out, which is going to be a different, well, obviously a different plug style, 3-prong still, but then very different rounded style plug for 240 power there. So, and that's the outside. We'll now move into the inside and show you that part. Okay, welcome back. From the outside, we're now inside living space, and just wanted to kind of touch on the remainder of the electrical, from the shore inputs on the outside to now where those shore inputs are coming to, what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So all of the electrical come into both of these seats. So we have a lot of the little miscellaneous components on this side, and then on the forward side there's going to be your inverter and batteries all kind of nicely tucked into there, with the center back portion or more driver side portion just again housing certain things specifically. So I'll pull this off here. Note if you're lifting this, there's a little tabs that keep it in place. You just kind of lift it up, and then we can get it. Actually, we'll just put it right down here, out of the way. Again, the electrical system, similar to water, similar to hydronic, it's complex, but how you as the user interface with it is actually quite simple. So what we have, actually we can start with shore because we've already kind of looked at that. So if you were going to be inputting 120 volts, which is kind of the US standard, you would basically turn on this breaker specifically, which is on, because we've been charging, etc. If you were to input 240, you would turn on both of these breakers. So that's when you're in Europe. That's if you're in another country using 240 as a shore input. We're not using those, so we've just kept them off. The other things that, as we kind of just move through here, 12 volt input is the full 12 volt system. So if we were to turn this off, all our lights would die, everything would be turned off. A lot of these things are safeties. A lot of these things are for us to service them, but just as a note here. So that would turn off all of your 12 volt. The one next to it is solar input. So this is these are actually breakers. If you for some reason had a surge of power, this would break. This would turn itself off. This is coupled with this again for service. So if you're working on solar for whatever reason, you can turn both of these off. This is the alternator charge. So the alternator on the truck is a 24 volt. We're charging 24 volt in these batteries. I would recommend those. That's defaulted to off. There's a lot of solar on the roof, something like 1200 watts of solar. That's doing a lot of work to keep these batteries topped off. So unless you're seeing you need more power to charge those batteries, I would just default that alternator to the off position, which is what it is here. It's a little hard to see with the support for the seat. This, in combination of these 240 shore breakers, is your shore inverter power. So right now the 240 inverter is off. Again, when you're going to use shore in Europe, you would turn these two on and you would turn this on. That would allow a 240 input to charge the batteries. And then these are just your main switches for the specific inverters. You've got two inverters to make 240, and then you've got two specific battery banks tied in for 24 volt. The other controls over here, these are your 120. These are specifically 120 breakers. So things like your Starlink, things like the Dynet plugs, really your general household items are going to be 120. That's in this area specifically. Again, all labeled. These are going to be your bladed fuses here for 12 volt. If I can pop this open. Here we go. And I think one thing of note is if one of these was to be blown, the light would go red. So you would kind of immediately know that you have a blown one. So that's your 12 volt. Let's see if I can get this cover back on here. There we go. And then one thing of importance for this particular build was having some redundancy switches. So if for some reason the touchscreen, the Firefly touchscreen, which we'll get to here in just a moment, it's not functioning, the screen goes down, you have this ability to specifically turn on or off some of these additional lights, not additional lights, but lights that are on the Firefly only. So again, if the Firefly touchscreen is down and you want to turn lights on, you have the ability via these switches here to do that. In order for them to function with the Firefly, they do have to be in the on position where they're right now. So the single pole is up, or I guess pressed down, sorry. Center is off, and then to go to the double would be if you were not using the Firefly touchscreen. That's the kind of the redundancy of it. So you can always use, if your touchscreen goes down, you can certainly use these as a power source. So we have all of our kind of electrical controls up here except our 240 breakers. We do have a few things in the truck that are 240. The Miele oven, the Fisher Paykel induction cooktop. We've got the washer and dryer machine. Those things are all 240 powered, so we do have a need for 240 breakers. So our 240 breakers, as we just were running out of space, are cleverly located to the back of this cabinet or drawer. So you pull the drawer or drawer out, and then you can see back here we've got your 240 main, induction cooktop oven, and then washer dryer breakers. I think those are things just like some of the breakers up here you'll likely never really have to access unless you're servicing, turning things off. But that's where your 240 breakers are located there. So the touch screen, and we've kind of reviewed these on some of our other videos, but this particular one kind of uses all of the functions, which makes it, again, kind of why we do use this particular touchscreen. It's robust, it's simple, it functions, and it's actually, I mean, easy for me to say, but I've never had a failure with one of these. So, but with it, you can go, home screen is kind of a snapshot of all those things. So we can do things like turn our lights on and off on this screen, cabinet lights. On here we'll also have a cooler, fridge, and freezer. So we have 3 buttons for that. Our water pump is currently on. You can see that it's lit up. You can see our tank level at about 75%. And then we also see our house battery and our chassis battery. These aren't reading correctly as it sets right now, as the chassis is not connected because we've disconnected it outside. And the house battery is reading specific to Firefly, which is using 12 volt, but we can also see 24 volt, which is going to be in our electrical screen here. Bear with me as I navigate through. We go to our Victron area, and we can see kind of what our loads are looking like, what's going on for our Victron system. And all we have to do here is click into it. Now we can see that our batteries are at 26.5, which is, again, topped off. This also showcases what's being used for 12 volt, or 24 volt, what our AC is doing, AC power. Most importantly, though, this is where we turn our inverter on from the controls to control everything. I said control too many times. So we would just essentially click enable, our inverter would come on. Of note, specifically if we're to plug in Shore, you don't have to go here, you don't have to switch a button, you just you plug the Shore in, it will sense it, it will all automatically turn on. So that's kind of the snapshot of this window. We'll go back to the home screen. Again, just kind of a snapshot of things. Our lighting screen, we can again turn on all of our stuff or turn it off here. We can also kill it all with one touch and then go back on with it too. So we went lighting, we went electrical. We've got our AC controls, which are on this. AC meaning air conditioning, which is directly above us. We have our gray tank dump valve, so we can, the tank valve is defaulted to open. We can close it here if we're going to fill it. We can turn on our toilet fan. We can turn on our siphon water pump here. Also, again, of note, that can be done on your phone. We have our awning controls, and then again, back to our settings, which is where we would access our mobile app. So the other cool thing with using Victron components is the Victron Connect app. So we can go into this. I'm going to put this down. It's going to pull up, well, a lot of things that are in the shop right now, but specifically, we're going to want to look for this Lynx Smart BMS, and we'll also look at this smart controller for solar. We'll go Lynx first because that is really the brains of this whole thing. Might take a minute to connect. So it's going to showcase everything really that the Victron system is doing, and all of the needs, wants, little details, all of that stuff is on here. So if the truck is to be stored for any period of time, I would go to turn off because that will kill all power. That won't allow anything to drain the batteries, etc., etc. I think that's just a really clever, nice little detail on there. And then, kind of shows state, which is running, allows to charge, yes, allows to discharge, yes. Just nice little details, I think, for the user, but really for me as the kind of the builder or troubleshooter to see what is going on if there's any questions on the other end. So that's where this Lynx gives us lots of those little details. You can see our voltage is very, very high at 26.5, which is perfect. We're using very little power because we're just kind of using some small 12 volt accessories. So that's the Lynx portion of it. That's, again, kind of the brains. Well, literally is the brains. It's the BMS. So then that's the Lynx. The other one is the Smart Solar. That's going to showcase how much solar's coming in, what that looks like, what's the past history, and all those things, which is cool. The truck has been in and out of the shop a little bit over the last couple days, which is something we can see in our history tab. So you can see yesterday the truck was out for a short bit. We had a max of 710 watts coming in yesterday. 2 days ago we had 1100, so there was more coming in that day there. And the panels are actually quite dirty right now, so it's pretty cool to see that amount of solar coming in. But this is nice because you can go back in your history to see too far. there's not much history to actually see. But you can go back and kind of get little glimpses of what was going on, whether the truck was stored, what the battery was doing, solar, et cetera, et cetera. So those two Victron apps are really important for just knowing those details. The other app is going to be your Vega Touch Mirror app. So we are basically at the connection phase. So we're going to go scan, and we're probably going to bring in a couple things that are in the shop. Actually, maybe not. We're close enough just to this one, so that's great. So we're going to click on this one. I didn't get that number, but ended in 86. And actually, we'll come over to the app, the screen itself, and just make sure we'll go mobile app, and we're going to go pin 777, and you'll be able to change this. It will actually ask you to change it. Okay, so you can kind of see that the touchscreen app itself pretty much mimics what's on the main screen. So again, we can turn all of our lights on and off from here. And this is nice obviously for our van builds, it's great, but for a truck, whereas you're getting in, getting out if you needed to, you forget to turn a light on, forget to turn a light off. You're going to be outside. You want to put your awning out. You don't have to climb back up your stairs. There's a lot of seems like silly things, but really makes it nice to be able to just, click on your phone, put your awning out, those sorts of things. So the app then mimics again the touchscreen itself, which is kind of the brains, the heart of all the electronics in our systems and all of your kind of touch points in the vehicle itself. So that is the overview. Not in brief, but sort of in brief of all the electrical. And of course, if you have any questions, you know where to find us.